All right. Good afternoon, Marty. How you doing?
Joe Redding, great to be back with you again for another PSA podcast.
Yeah, on a sultry afternoon here. The U.S. is
Yes,
heating up.
yes, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So, hey, today we'll be discussing the business and technology behind a global leader in collaborative robots and autonomous guided vehicles with Jane Heffner, Vice President of Global Sales for the Americas at Teradyne Robotics. Jane Heffner is an accomplished sales leader with over 2 decades of experience in technology-driven industries, including automation, automotive, and aerospace. As VP of Global Sales, she oversees the commercial strategy for Universal Robots and Mir in the Americas as well as around the world, driving market expansion and customer success. Jane is also Vice President of the International Federation of Robotics, IFR, where she works to promote robotics worldwide. And she's also a member of the A3 Robotics Technology Strategy Board. But before joining Teradyne Robotics, Jane held leadership roles at ABB, which we'll get to that later, but that's where I first got to meet Jane, and she became one of my leaders, and other major industrial companies. She is a passionate leader who believes that strong partnerships are at the heart of strategic growth. Beyond her professional achievements, she is dedicated to career development, coaching, and people leadership, fostering a culture where talent thrives and innovation flourishes. So Jane, as I mentioned, works for Teradyne Robotics, which is a global leader in advanced automation solutions dedicated to revolutionizing manufacturing processes through innovation in collaborative and mobile robotic technologies. Teradyne Robotics companies like Universal Robots and Mobile Industrial Robots, also known as Mir, empower businesses of all sizes to enhance operational efficiency by integrating the power of machines with human talent. Their comprehensive range of solutions enables companies to optimize manufacturing processes, leading to improved product quality, increased productivity, while greatly improving worker safety. So all that said, let me introduce Jane Heffner. So Jane, how are you doing today?
Good, Joe. Nice to see you. Thanks for that nice
Nice.
introduction.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Quite welcome. So I have a little bit of a cold here, so we're trying to work through that. So I got my I guess my radio voice on. So, but if I have any coughing, just keep continuing to go. I'm just gonna may struggle through a little bit, but hopefully not so much.
Yep.
So glad that you joined us on the podcast. Thanks so much. I know your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you taking that time out this afternoon to join Marty and I. So
Excited to do it.
yeah, happy to have you here. So before we get started, I'd like to learn a little bit more about our guest. Now, I certainly know you from our time that we spent together at ABB for a few years, but I'd like our listeners and Marty to learn a little bit more about yourself. So tell us a little bit more about you and how you were like as a child growing up, and then how you got into the industry, and then how you made it into automation, robotics, and such.
Yeah. So where to start? I originally am from the UK. I spent my formative years growing up in the UK, primarily just outside of London, and went through high school and then entered into an apprenticeship management training program with a very large retail company over there, which was an excellent approach for me. It was very much learning by doing. It was a 4-year program, very similar to, a college equivalent program here. But it was basically experiencing many different areas of, the company and how the company works. And basically what they would do is have you work in each area and gain some knowledge of it, and then figure out which direction you wanted to go, whether that was human resources, whether that was operations, or whether that was more on the merchandising and finance side of things. And I decided I would go down the human resource road. So I think, that kind of program, many people are not academics, and I think we lose a lot of talent, especially here in the US, by not maximizing, programs like apprenticeships where people, can learn in different ways. And so it's something that, I'm quite passionate about, and I try to reinforce. And as we reskill people and we look at like labor shortages here, I think it's something that we really need to, take into consideration. Anyway, went down the road of human resources, which is all about, maximizing people's strengths and enabling them to succeed, and really stayed in that role. Met my husband, who was in the American military, and easier for me to move to the US than it was for him to move to the UK. So I happily moved to the US, and I've been here now a very, very long time, over 35 years, and love living here. Greatest decision that I ever made. I miss England terribly, but as long as I can go back there frequently, it's all good. So when I came to the US, slightly different education approach, went into retail, kind of had to start all over again, kind of start from the bottom and work my way back up again, which was fine. And again, ended up in human resources and ended up in a college recruiting program of all things, where we were looking at bringing people into our company and putting them through a training program, very similar to what the experience I had had in the UK, which was great. Person I was working for at that point in time had an opportunity to move from retail over into manufacturing, and asked me if I would go with her, which I thought at the time was a horrible idea. But went over there and spent, a day in a 1 million square foot manufacturing facility in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and loved every minute of my day. And really wished that, I was going to be able to, be able to go over there and work with them, and I did. And so we set up a similar program there. We went through the first recession. Many companies at that point in time, short-sightedly, everybody holds off on hiring or training or whatever. But they asked me at that point in time if I would move over to sales. And again, sales had never been something that I had thought about, but really sales is not very different to human resources. It's, working with people, it's maximizing their success, it's making people successful. So I moved in there and worked for a company that was making, parts for basically an automotive company, making car carpets and supplying into the automotive industry. And I stayed in the automotive industry, for probably about 20 years after that, then in different modes, always in the sales function, moving from different companies, from interiors to basically fuel systems, and really, seemed attracted to more of the technical sale. Second recession hits, and it's a little scary in the automotive industry. So I had an opportunity to move to work for private equity. And in the private equity company that I was working for, they had recently purchased a refractory metals company. So it was everything but automotive. It was all kinds of different industries, whether it was furnace, high heat, the chemical industry, medical, all kinds of aerospace, all kinds of like different places. So went over there to run their sales organization in the US, and then ultimately their global sales organization, and had a ton of fun doing that. And so I actually thought, when that came to an end, that I was done and that would be my career over and I would do more on the philanthropic side of things. But since I've worked since I was 18 years old, I think that idea lasted about 3 months, and I decided I needed to get back into working. And I like the routine, I like the structure, call it my hobby if you like, which is a little bit scary kind of going forward. So I started to look for, what was the next industry that I really wanted to be in. And I wanted to be, somewhere that was global. So I like having that global perspective and looking at things from other people's perspective as how things are working. I wanted something that was technologically challenging. Even though I don't have a technical degree, I've always been attracted to the technical field. And I also wanted something that was large company, not private equity. And so that's where I found ABB. And that's where you and I met, Joe. And I came into ABB again in a sales role, middle management sales role, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I really enjoyed, building teams, working with people, enabling, systems so that, they can ultimately be successful. So I stayed with ABB for about 6 years, and then had an opportunity to move over to MIR. And then that was 2 years ago. And then just recently, we've brought under Teradyne Robotics, we've brought the UR and MIR programs together, basically under Teradyne Robotics, and have now taken on the responsibility for UR as well. So, wild varieties. I think, I've been very lucky that people have given me a number of different opportunities. And, I would say to people, never miss an opportunity that's put in front of you because you never know where it's going to take you. So it's been an exciting ride, that's for sure. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, that's fantastic, Marty. What do you think? I mean, that's quite a storied history there of how she's gone in,
Yeah.
from the past all the way to the present here, and automation and the forefront now of technology, and in both the
Yes.
collaborative world and the autonomous robots. That's awesome. Lots of challenges there along the way, Jane, for you though,
Yep.
right?
Yep, many challenges, but it's I think that's what, looking at challenges is a way to, figure out how do you get past those and how do you work through them. And again, I've been lucky that I've had some great mentors along the way to help me in that process. Yeah, but it's been exciting, and like you said, here I am. And sometimes it's like you look at collaborative robots, autonomous mobile robots. It really is on the cutting edge, right, of where we are right now, and it's a really exciting place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Joe, I
sure.
think the theme throughout her Jane's entire career is she's a learner. She loves to learn.
I do.
She loves to jump into things, and I'm sure she's studied and experienced and then taught a lot of things that she learned as a mentor. So, wow, this is going to be a great conversation. So, back
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
you,
and
Joe.
certainly very people focused. I mean, Jane's always been a very people focused from my history of spending time with her. She cherishes the involvement with people. Am I
I
right,
do.
Jane, that you just really love to work with people and build relationships,
Yeah, and I love being
colleagues or
out
with your
with.
customers, right?
Yeah, I love being out with the customers. I mean, it's like I love being, face to face with the customers. I don't think you can really build relationships from behind a screen. I think that's one of the things from COVID is that people have got more used to that, and trying to get people back out, building relationships with people face to face is not an easy challenge, for us to get past. It's always more simple to do a virtual meeting, but you don't have that conversation of kind of like when the meeting's finished and you're walking to the door, or you go get a cup of coffee or something like that. There's always something to learn there that you can work through. So,
Yeah. So, Jane, the dovetailing of that, it's simple, but is it as effective? So the Zoom
yes.
meeting is very efficient,
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily effective. Am I right there?
I think you're very right. I think you're very right. So you miss a lot of things that way.
Yeah. Okay, Joe.
Yeah, for sure. So is that something you push for your sales team to get out on feet on the street, meet the customer, whether it be a direct OEM or an end user or a distributor or what have that? You want them to be out on the street.
Yes, I do. I want them to be with the customer. I want them to be with the customer's customer. Not because, I want to take that customer away from, our partner or whatever, but I want our people to really understand who is it that we're really, really selling to, who is the end customer, and what is the solution that they are really looking for, so that we can really build that solution, that really applies to what they're doing. We've had a couple of places, and Joe, I think you remember this, right? We had some KPIs, that we put in place where it's like measuring the number of, customer visits that you actually make. And again, it's really not to police people. It's really to kind of like encourage them to say, how many face-to-face meetings are you having? Are you maximizing the time, when you're out in a region? Are you seeing, are you maximizing that time and utilizing your time as effectively as you possibly can? And it just gives us an opportunity to coach them through, to maybe look at things in a slightly different way. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you can also use those KPIs also to see how is that relationship building, right? How is that evolving? Is it evolving,
Yeah.
because of those interactions, those face-to-face interactions, and chances are they probably are. You're building a better rapport if you're face-to-face, having direct conversations with people. And I was always a big proponent of doing that myself when I was out
Yeah.
on the street. I felt that was very important. But yeah, so that's the salesy side of it, and that's great because I love the people aspect of everything. But we're here to talk a little bit about collaborative robotics and autonomous mobile robots and the company you work for. So I gave a brief introduction of Teradyne Robotics, but can you just expand a little bit more about Teradyne Robotics and their involvement in the collaborative and AGV industry?
Yeah, I can. So, Teradyne has, quite a storied history. The company was actually founded in 1960 and has over the years become a global leader, in the automatic test equipment for the semiconductor industry. Basically, we've worked for many, many years for test equipment. So every chip that is basically manufactured has to be tested before it is used in any application. And so that test equipment has to be very, very accurate, right? So it's like every chip going through there, has to be tested very well to know that it's going to work, whether that's in your cell phone or your robot or whatever it is that chip is basically gonna be used in. I think over time, they've looked at expanding into different industries. And they decided that they would expand into industrial automation, just as similarly that semiconductor test was very new to them back in the 1960s. They saw that automation was really going to be an industry that needed support going forward, and so they acquired Universal Robots first, and then Mobile Industrial Robots secondly, and to form, Teradyne Robotics, and we basically come now under that umbrella. And so, between those two technologies, they're very niche. UR is collaborative robots only. So we really focus all our attention and all our investment in the development of collaborative robots. We now have over 100,000 robots, collaborative robots that are basically, across the world and implemented at this point in time. And so, we've worked very hard to basically understand and to make sure that our customers are supported when it comes to collaborative robots. I can remember, Joe, when you and I were at ABB, that collaborative robots was a relatively new thing. And I think a lot of people, thought not going to happen, right? And so we've done a lot of work around safety, around, risk assessments, of working with our customers very carefully to find the right applications for collaborative robots and to improve the technology, over the years. So, we're getting faster, we're getting more energy efficient, we're doing, those kind of things that our customers are expecting us to do. And then, with mobile industrial robots, with MIR, again, autonomous mobile robots is a space that, is, not designed to take jobs. It's designed to really alleviate the boring, mundane jobs of moving product from point A to point B and facilitating the people who have been doing that in the past to go and do something that's slightly more exciting for them. So the nice thing with AMRs is they're very flexible. Unlike an AGV, sometimes people will confuse the two, but an AGV is usually following a line, following a track, whereas an autonomous mobile robot is able to read its environment and make decisions, as to where it's going to go based on the challenges that are set in front of it. And so it gives you more flexibility, in your facility to basically be able to move them from place to place as demand changes. You can move them, in different places.
So let's take a step back because that's interesting, and not many people are going to really understand that just from the broad scheme, like an AGV versus versus a mobile industrial robot. So an AGV, you were saying that an AGV kind of like follows a line or a path.
Yeah. So
The
autonomous
mobile
guided
industrial robot.
robots. Yeah.
Yes. So that's guided by some sort of a mechanism, whether it be, is it in the ground? Is it on the
It's
ground?
usually
How's that?
It's usually on the ground. It's usually
Okay.
embedded to the floor, right? So it's usually some kind of magnetic strip or something along those lines that
Okay.
basically it allows to follow the line. And where the flexibility comes in is that you basically have to lay out your floor that way, right? So it's like once it's down, and
Right.
you have to lay your floor that way. With an AMR, it basically will locate itself off, different points within the facility.
Okay.
And so, there are challenges that are associated with it, and we have to look at the environment, in which the AMRs are basically sitting to make sure that it's going to work properly. But with the AMR, it's easily deployable to other applications. So if you have a line that's maybe down, it's seasonal or something along those lines, you can basically take your AMR and put it into another area and utilize it there very easily. So has
Yeah,
a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, that's a great
yeah,
point.
yeah. Jane, I spent years in food service distribution,
Hmm.
and I'm still involved with it a little bit. But so I kind of saw this the last few years, what you're describing, and the changes and the modifications. I was in that a long time ago, but again, I saw all these changes that you're describing now. And the whole
Yeah.
food service distribution, I would assume, is one of the fields that you might be involved in. I don't know. Am I
It
accurate?
is. It is. And more, I think, typically, like any robotics, automotive has always been the leader in adoption, right? So they've always been very quick to, adopt in different areas. And we've got a couple of, manufacturers, automotive manufacturers who have, 400, 500 AMRs running around their facilities now, all talking to one another, all controlled on a fleet,
Yeah,
software that basically, they can interpret. Food distribution, logistics, warehousing, those types of environments, right, are really environments that are growing more and more. And being able to, there are some limitations, around surfaces as to whether they're wet or whether they're shiny or whether they're,
yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of things like clean room environments,
Yep.
temperature, those kind
Yeah,
of things have to be taken into consideration. So
that's
I
right.
think sometimes people think that, it's an easy deployment. It's a relatively, I would say, straightforward deployment, providing you have done the homework to really look at your environment and make sure that your environment is conducive, to what you need.
There you go. Okay, back
Right.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of melding collaborative robots with the AMRs as well, right? So you're putting robots on AMRs and be able to do processes and move even robots around from maybe application to application.
Yeah, so it's more of mobile, like a mobile manipulator. Maybe it's a step towards humanoids. I think humanoids are a little way off right now. But really, what you're looking for is you're looking for the robot to be able to pick something or grip something or do something. The robot is no good without, we have a huge ecosystem. And I think that's another thing that UR has done very, very well, and Mia, is to really build that ecosystem of what happens, what gets attached to the end of the robot to really make it, something that can be used. If you just have a robot, it can't really do anything other than move, right? And it can move the same way every time. But you have to have an end effector, to basically be able to, so we've basically worked very closely with our ecosystem to identify partners, whose product will work with ours. And in some case, we've developed the CAP software where it's, a seamless software ability, for that particular partner to be integrated into our parts. So with the mobile manipulators or the mobile cobots, depending on what you need it to do, you can have it move from one place to another. Basically, a cobot, basically on top of a collaborative robot on top of a mirror. And it gives it even more flexibility to, move to different locations and, apply to different things as well. So yeah, and the fact that we have both, I think we are one of the only, if not the only company that has both technologies. Currently, those technologies come together through a third party, but we really kind of focus on the fact that we can bring those both together and maximize the capability of both.
Yeah,
Joe,
certainly it's
before
under your own singular umbrella. That's what's nice
Yes.
about it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
we've got
Absolutely.
our
Good.
listeners paying close attention, so why don't we kind of how can people get in touch with you, Jane? What's the website that people should look at? I think you've got us hooked. So make sure where should
Okay.
we look for you and your company? There's more to talk about. I thought I'd just put that in there right now.
No, absolutely. So Teradyne Robotics, is our website. So, please look us up. There's a lot of information that's basically there. And there's access to different people. People can reach out to me directly. I can, provide my email, and people are more than welcome to reach out to me too.
That's excellent. Excellent. Okay,
That's
Joe.
fantastic. Well, and we'll share all that information in the show notes when we launch
Great.
the podcast. So that'd be fantastic. So
Yeah.
you're melding the hardware together. Now you're gonna do you meld the people together that are actually selling the hardware? Does your team cross sell between UR and Mir, or are they separate individuals and solely focused?
We're beginning to. So ultimately, we go to market through distribution and partners. So distribution, OEM partners, and CSIs. And in many cases, both UR and Mir share many of the same partners across there. What's different is selling a collaborative robot is a different process to selling an autonomous mobile robot. And although sometimes I think people think of them as just being robots, they're really not. The cycle time associated with an AMR is a lot longer than a cycle time with a collaborative robot. In some cases with a collaborative robot, it's out of the box and it's up and running in 30 minutes, and it's a very standard application, right? Within AMRs, we want to make sure the environment is good, the floors are good, the Wi-Fi is good, and that the customers going to have a really good experience with that. So it's a slightly different process. And what we're finding now is that people don't necessarily just want to buy one AMR, they need multiple AMRs. So tends to be a little bit more of a commitment, to make sure that they've got people trained on site, who are going to be able to, operate those, in the off hours. So we brought the two sales organizations together at the beginning of this year, under leadership, basically, where we have both organizations. In many cases right now, we sell separately. Um, but where we can, we're beginning to commonize that process, right? Where we want to make sure that the salespeople are trained well, that they've got the knowledge that they need to have to do both, and that they can balance both, within the region that
Excuse
they
me.
are. So we're beginning to, bring those together. Certainly, we have some large account selling that we do, and our sales team, within the large accounts group is selling both Mir and UR. And then on a regional basis, we're beginning to do that as well. And like I said, some of our partners, I would say probably like 50% of our partners are common to both. So their folks are familiar with selling, both a Mir and a UR. And would agree probably that they are different processes to go forward. But I fully expect that will continue to merge as we go forward. And we're not in a terrible hurry to do it, but it's we want to do it at the right speed. But it will make sense for us to do that going forward.
Do you have an engineering team behind you, behind the sales team that helps support them as well?
Yeah, so we have two. I mean, I wouldn't say two engineering teams. They're an extension of each other. So we have a huge engineering team in Denmark. So our hub, our headquarters for Teradyne Robotics is Odense, in Denmark, which is basically the home of many robotics projects, especially new entrepreneurial robotics coming out of there. And both UR and Mir, we opened a new facility there, beautiful new facility about a year ago now, where both companies can come together, and we've got a phenomenal showroom, that we're very happy to take people, to and demonstrate, basically the capability of the robots. And within there, we have a very strong engineering and R&D team. And so, going back to what I said about, at the beginning, of your show, we are very focused on collaborative robots. And so we are plowing back basically and continuing to invest to, improve our portfolio, whether that's, additional arm capability, whether it's additional payload capability, whether it's improving speed, whether it's improving efficiency. So there is a lot of investment that is basically happening on the engineering and R&D side there. In addition to that, regionally, we have applications engineering teams who work very closely with the sales teams, um, really as customer success, both in the upfront process and in the after process of making sure that the experience is good for the customer and that they are getting the return on investment that they expected, that we're delivering what they expected and making sure that we're optimizing systems. Our applications engineering teams within the sales organization are also responsible for training. So there's a lot of training that needs to go on of both our customers and our partners to make sure that they are capable, especially as new technology comes through. So, yeah, regional applications teams in each of the global parts of the world. So one here for the Americas, one in Europe, and one in APAC, and yeah, really talented people within there to really support and work very closely with the sales teams. It's really, I wouldn't say they really work as a symbiotic group because they rely on each other to do different elements of the sales process.
Sure. And including that sales process is going out and getting involved in trade shows, exhibiting at trade shows. I'm
Yeah.
surprised you're not going to Automatica. Is that, I'm sure you are there and Mir's there, correct?
They are. I am just not visiting there. I am in the US, for right now. So it's like I am not there, but we have a very big booth at Automatica. We just came off Automate, where Mir and you are. I think we had the largest booth at the show this year. It was the second year that we brought the two technologies together under Teradyne Robotics. And we basically had a very open booth. I think it's fair to say too, we were one of the only booths that had AMRs that were basically interacting with you. There was no
Hmm.
restriction, maybe a little restriction around our pallet jack, but the other AMRs were literally, running around and stopping
Yeah.
as people, that was like very open and we were able to like demonstrate that. We had a great new launch at the show. We launched the UR15, which is a new payload for us, but it's also much faster. It's got some new certifications that we're bringing to the marketplace too. So it was a very successful show for us. And I think, A3 just recently said it was the highest attendance they've had at any show,
Wow.
which, was, yeah, it was actually a little bit surprising because it's the last year for it to be in Detroit. And we thought
I
people
know.
might wait and go to Chicago. But yeah, they've outgrown the problem with Detroit is they've
Yeah.
outgrown the facility, and so they
Yeah.
need to be in a bigger facility now going forward. So yes, so we came off a great Automate show. It's a great place for us to meet our customers, to conduct launches, to have our partners in the booth with us, so that people don't just see the robots, they can see actually how the robots are used in different applications. And so we'll typically have welding partners, we'll have packaging, we had paint partners, with us in that booth, so they're showing technology too.
Hmm.
And then we will be at both Pack Expo and FabTech here in the fall. So we're gearing up to support both of those as well.
Yeah, you guys always put on excellent booths at trade shows. Kudos to you.
Yes.
I love
Thank
going
you.
to the UR booth and also the mirror. I thought the walking into your booth and having all the different applications being shown were excellent, but having the mobile robots moving around as well. To your point, that was pretty cool. You're standing there having a
Yeah.
conversation or walking around, and these mobile robots, Marty, were just like moving around, and you'd walk up to it and pause, and it would and then you'd walk away and just keep going, just moving around. It was very, very cool. And you utilize your ecosystem really well at those shows too, to get them exposure and on those partners that, and the UR caps, right, on how you can use those and most effectively.
Correct.
So yeah, great show.
Yeah, I
good.
think that's something that, and kudos to the UR organization, because I think that is really something that has set them apart from the competition, is that they realized very early on that, as I said before, you can't just sell the robot, you've got to sell a solution. And in order to do that, we needed that ecosystem, that community to work with us, and we needed to be able to show people how to use the robot. And so before I came to work for UR, I was always very impressed with the fact that at the show, they were one of the only people that was really, had partners in the booth with them, not in other partners' booths, but with them actually showing how the robots worked. And so there's usually 4 or 5 different applications that are basically there. So people can really see, how the application works.
Yeah, that's really good. So we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much again for joining us. But before we wrap up, I always like to just invite the guest to share a success story, maybe something that's on top of mind for you there. So if you could share something, that'd be great.
Yeah, so our latest published, case study that we have is from the US, and it's with a company called Canvas, and it's actually in a new space, which is, it's always fun to kind of share in a new space. So it's actually in the construction industry. And we're beginning to see, the application of robots. I mean, typically, robots in automotive or robots in industry, but we're now beginning to see, robots in other places, the hospital environment, different places like that. So Canvas uses UR cobots for drywall finishing in the construction industry. And I can provide you with, a little link to that, for the podcast so you can see it. So it's not a common application, but it's something new. And this particular partner, who again is called Canvas, is using the robots to improve ergonomics and reduce injury. And really, it's difficult to find a drywaller. It's difficult to find a plumber. It's difficult to find an electrician, right? So this is a need where, robots are really filling the gap of, labor shortages, and working through from there. So it's a great example of the type of repetitive work which can cause injury to workers, and they don't want to do it. And with the right technology, you can automate it. So I will send you a little link on that, and you can kind of see how they're working through it. But it is our latest published case study. And within the website, something else that we do is publish multiple case studies. So again, people, you're not just talking about it, people can actually go and see how it works and see how other people have worked it too.
Oh, beautiful. Excellent. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. That's interesting. I can't imagine a robot doing drywall. That's a skill. That's an actual skill. So that's interesting.
It is a skill. Yeah. And it's helping. It's not doing the whole thing on its own. It's a collaboration, right, with the human being, but it's taking away some of the, the challenge that, they face. So yeah, all good.
Awesome. Perfect.
Great.
All right, Marty, anything else, Marty, you'd like to touch on?
We could go on for another 45 minutes, but I'm not going to do that because there's so many things I'd like to continue to talk about. Maybe she can come back. Jane can come back before the year is out. And maybe there'll be a new case study that we can talk about. Let's just make sure that we know the website, and it's Teradyne, right? Teradyne. Teradyne. Is it TeradyneRobotics.com?
Yes.
Okay. TeradyneRobotics.com. And learn more about what we've talked about today. Is that Canvas case study on the website too, Jane?
It is.
Okay, but do send the link to us, because we'll push out the link. And I'm very interested in that, because I have several construction clients in the construction industry. So I am very interested in learning more about that.
Right.
Good. I will send it to you.
A selfish motive, Joe. Forgive me.
Hey, that's all right, Marty.
Hey, I'm a sales guy, for God's sakes.
Yeah, you are.
All right, Joe. Back to you, buddy.
All right, now, so, hey, Jane, thank you so much again for taking time out of your afternoon to join us. I really do appreciate it. Always good to spend some time with you. So thanks a lot, and continue happy selling, okay?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's always fun to kind of get the message out there, and I'll happily come back anytime.
Beautiful.
Jane.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much. All right,
All
thanks.
right, take
Take
care.
care.
Bye bye.